Thank you for tuning in to Stampscaping 101. This is another Stampbord project. I did the domino-sized Stampbord tiles in kind of a triptych fashion, or triptych-inspired fashion, by taking 3 of the domino-sized Stampbord tiles. Okay, and I just used the Lakeside Cove stamp, and I'm not going to put these right on there because that ink is still wet, but basically just lined them up like that, made an impression on them, and just used the various subtractive mark processes that you can do on a scratch board or stamp board type of surface. You can see right here I've kind of matted the 3 tiles down together, and hopefully you can see the dimension of them, the shadows in there. I didn't take, if I took more time, I would probably take a metallic pigment ink pad and on these kind of boring edges of the tile that show the wood like that, I would tap it into the metallic ink pad, and that would give an extra little border around the tiles, to show some kind of visual interest. But just didn't want to take the time to do that right now. I just wanted to show kind of the formatting of it. But anyways, kind of a triple matte just on a card like that. And those tiles really make for great embellishments when you do it like that. I've seen people do, now I just stamped these tiles over one stamp, and I use the watergrass stamp down below, but I mean, I have seen where people have put together more than, say, 3 types of tiles together, and or I've even seen inchies, little 1-inch square Stampbord tiles, where I don't know if people taped them all together and then they stamped out kind of a more complete scene doing it that way. And then I think they were saying you can take those little tiles and like turn them into a puzzle. You send them to people in the mail and they're all kind of loose and they kind of put them together. But anyways, formatting, kind of some kind of scene or project, doesn't have to be a landscape scene, over multiple tiles like that, and presenting them in that fashion kind of gives it a kind of a neat graphic look to it, and just the 3-dimensional nature of it on for like a card makes it kind of a dynamic card, just in the 3-dimensional aspect in itself. So kind of a fun little project to do, and that one came together pretty quickly. I think I looked at the time, and it was under, I don't know, about 25 minutes or something like that. And that's when, with me stamping and kind of explaining the entire process, it would, 3 tiles itself would take even less than that. So overall project took me about, I would say, a half hour. Just 3 simple mats. I didn't even measure it. I photo sticker these down on a piece of paper, and then I cut the paper afterwards, just so I don't have to measure everything out. And I just kind of eyeball it, another black kind of iridescent matte, and cut that out, and then just that thin piece of little gold matting around it, because you'll see in the video I use a little gold pen to kind of add in a little bit of an extra little metallic flourish into the scene. So kind of like my high school colors, black and gold, and I don't know, there's not too much white in here, but for that reason I name the scene Tierra Royale, the name of our high school yearbook. So anyways, hope you enjoy the project and the scene. Thanks again for tuning in. Okay, after doing my last lesson with the use of Stampbord, this project right here. I got to wondering if I had done a different type of Stampbord project involving the use of kind of three rectangular pieces of board. And I have a really bad memory, but I looked online in our lessons section, Stampbord section, and I couldn't find a triptych lesson. So I thought I'd do one. I know I've thought about doing it in the past, but I don't know. I don't think I've done it. If I've done it, then I'm doing it again, but maybe it'll be in a different color scheme or something like that. Okay. These are domino-sized Stampbord pieces, like I just said, and they're really good for this kind of project right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp an image across three different boards, and a triptych is kind of like three different compositions, typically, that have been composed to be displayed with one another, you know, in a certain order. I don't know that this is a true triptych in the sense that it's just basically going to be one composition, but I'm just going to, you know, display it, you know, with a little bit of space in between, like that. But anyways, it's kind of a neat little effect, and it's a pretty good use of the form, you know, of these raised, you know, three-dimensional tiles. All right, let's get started here. I'm trying to think if I wanted to stamp this out in black. Let's do it in black. Actually, now I'm wondering if I want to do the background first. Let's do that. Let's add the colors into the background. I'm going to do kind of a rustic, kind of aged type of look. Of course, distress inks are really great for that. And let's see if I have a nice clean applicator here. I should have cleaned these off before I started this video. Here's a new pad. Okay. Distress inks are all made by Ranger Industries. I find these inks to be somewhat thick in their consistency, so I can go ahead and easily apply these and kind of spread out the ink a bit. My distress ink pads are kind of old, so they're a little bit dry, so there's not too much ink going onto the board. I'm holding these boards together for the sake of them being somewhat cohesive in terms of the lighting scheme that I'm going to try to achieve. In this case, it's just a simple interior glow, probably central to the three pieces, and it's just going to be light, medium, darker, dark, darkest in the four corners, as I often do. It's good for a kind of a compositional element framing device. Call it maybe like a vignette. Vignetting? I don't know if that's a word. Okay, this color is antique linen. I'm pretty familiar with these distress inks, but not so familiar where I'm kind of confident as far as knowing which one's darker than the other. I'm just going by the labels, and this one does seem to be a little bit darker than the antique linen. This one's the tea dye. Okay. Now these tiles are getting a little bit, you know, every time I spin it around, they're kind of getting a little bit separated, but I don't feel the need to tape these together or something like that. I mean, you certainly could tape them together on the back and, you know, through the entire process. Okay, tea dye. Let's go with the walnut stain. Okay, starting on the outside edges. Incrementally working my way into the board. Maybe since this is a darker ink, I don't take it in quite as far. With Stampbord, I really don't feel the need to have kind of a real smooth application of ink, just because of the subtractive process that we can kind of employ as far as the techniques that are used on the board or in the project. Alright, I know me, and I know that I could leave it like that, and I can stamp out the project and whatnot, but I know I'm going to want something a little bit darker on the four corners. So I'm going to just do that right now. You could do it later too, but while I'm kind of in this toning process, I'm just going to do it. Okay, now at this point in time especially, you don't want to have like these shapes right on the interior, you know, like in here. I mean, if you get them, then don't worry about it. But see, I'm not going to use that edge right there. What I'm doing is, let's see, here's my board like this, but see this right here? I'm using it kind of, I'm not using it flat like that, I'm using it at an angle, see that? So this tip right here, that edge, is never really touching down, you know, on its edge on the interior, so I'm kind of tapping this at an angle like that, and then you don't have to worry about that edge in here because it never touches the board, okay? So that's my trick in doing that. So what this looks like is, so this is kind of tilted up like that. It's not down, that's flat. It's like that. Okay? And I come in from the edge like that, and I'm tapping down. I mean, I might use that edge a little bit, but after, kind of only after I've tapped it off quite a bit, where it's kind of, you know, a much weaker version of a freshly inked up pad or foam tip. Okay. These triptychs, I'm just going to use, I was going to say one stamp, maybe I will, maybe I'll use a couple other things down here in the water just to create a little bit of a separation between kind of sky and earth and sky. We'll see. Okay. Now, let's see here. I need to figure out keep these in order. Okay, this is roughly, I'll have that Lakeside Cove image just right in the center. Now I find that this is going to be easier to do. Oops, let's see here. Okay, I'm just going to ink this up, and instead of trying to keep all these Stampbord tiles together, and to make sure that I get a good impression, I'm going to take tile to stamp like this, and I'll do it in 3 different I don't know, 3 different impressions, I guess. I'm making the impression, but I'm taking tile to stamp, okay? Make sure you get a good, you know, overall coverage of it. Okay, now I'm taking this other one right here. Don't get these reversed now, otherwise this, you know, that glow is going to be kind of on the outside. I don't know, might look kind of interesting, but if you do something like keep it intentional. Okay, now I'm just matching this up, and I'm going to tap it right down there, like so. Sometimes if you take stamp to tile, like you have all the tiles all kind of taped together on a piece of paper, and then you take stamp to tile, sometimes I find that down on the edges right here, you know, there might be like a white line that's kind of left over. Maybe the tiles were, you know, slightly different in terms of the height of it and the thickness or whatnot, I don't know. Okay, and the last one, checking to make sure the orientation of it is correct, and I'm adding that down like so, just like taking a rubber stamp to paper, making sure that, trying to make sure that I'm getting all of the impression good and flat. Okay. And there we have it. Lakeside Cove. I almost need a little bit more right here. And right there, I think. Let's do that. Ink that up, and I'll overlap this slightly. Carry out that idea off that edge of the board. Okay. And how about a little bit of texture in the foreground with the use of the watergrass stamp. Okay. Just again, just kind of make a little bit of a textural change from earth and sky. Alright, now I'm not going to wait. In the last tile that I did, I kind of waited till the tiles dried a little bit, but let's just get right into it. Okay, let's see here. I'm wondering if I should use the fiber brush. Let's go ahead and do that. Just like in the last scene. I'm just going to create some texture in the sky. We have this kind of glow working right now, but let's just get a little bit of a texture running through there. Just kind of for a little bit of variation. Maybe these are some kind of wispy clouds. Kind of going to try to be somewhat careful that I don't just remove all of my tones that I've laid down, you know, to represent the lighting of the scene, meaning that darker area there to kind of bring out that side. Okay, can you see those little wisps like that? Kind of gives it a little bit of a different look too, you know. It's just a texturally, it's a little bit of a richer area now, having something kind of going on in that space. I guess it's adding visual movement to the scene as well. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. How about down here in the water? Creating a little bit of lighting. Kind of creating a little bit of surface as well. And again, this is the fiber brush. And again, this was used in the previous lesson if you want kind of an explanation of what the fiber brush is all about and kind of the do's and don'ts on how to use it. I'm not going over the fiber brush again in this video. I've long realized I really talk too much in these videos. Okay, creating a little bit of lighting. Switch to the kind of the spoon-shaped scratcher knife. Kind of going on the tops of the rocks. The tops of the rocks are already kind of lit, right? So I'm just going in, imagine this is the stamped impression, I'm just going in and I'm reiterating what's already on the stamp design itself. Okay, if this is a white gel pen, then I would be highlighting the tops of the rocks, but with an additive process, adding gel pen works to it. In this case, I'm removing ink. It's a subtractive process. If you remove too much, just take your stylus tool and ink it right back in, like this. Okay. Provided you don't scratch all the way down through the clay to the board. It's a very workable process. See that rock right there that I just inked out? Now let's say, oh, okay, it was too lit. Now I want to go back in and try it again. Then just go back in and add your highlight back in, or don't, you know, depending on what you like. Okay. Those rocks are really starting to kind of come alive. The scene starts to come alive when you add kind of the addition of highlights. It tends to give depth to imagery. It creates a kind of strong relationship between the imagery and the depicted lighting. It's adding dialogue into a scene. Okay. more life in the water. We're saying that the water is really kind of reflecting. You're creating more of a reflective surface in the water. These little grasses in the water down here, I'm going to turn the tile upside down so that I can do my, nice ergonomic motion. And we'll highlight some of these grasses here alongside the shoreline as well of the Lakeside Cove stamp. There was this book out that was called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and part of the kind of concept of the book was you took the something that you were drawing and flipped it upside down, because your brain doesn't kind of pick up, doesn't think, I guess logically of the object that you're doing. You just kind of see shapes, and sometimes you're better able to kind of render these things, without having that notion in your head. I guess sometimes I've wondered if when you flip a scene upside down or something like that, or sideways, and when you're working with that, for me, I don't know, sometimes I've wondered if I'm just, it kind of helps in that way, that you're just looking at kind of objects and lighting and direction, as opposed to doing this and saying, okay, I'm working in the sky or something like that, or this is water now, I'm just looking at, kind of like two areas of, two lit areas, and, how do they kind of relate to one another, and if it looks right that way. I don't know. If it looks good upside down, I guess it'll look good right side up. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, I've switched off to the more pointed, kind of spear-shaped tip for a good, consistent line. Okay. Lighting is coming from in the interior, sides of the tree, facing the light, a few highlights, and on the other side of the tiles, some more highlights, but on the other side of the tree, the opposite side of the tree. Okay, so there's the triptych. What do you think? Should we do the first star of the night type of thing? Why don't we? Let's do it right here. I picked that little spot just because it's still a little bit darker right there. I can't really put it in here. I wouldn't really be able to see it. Okay, let me see if I can get that. Kind of that look. Here we go. Let me try to keep this in the field of view here. Scratching these little stars back in, it's almost like giving you entirely a new, I know it's not a new stamp, but it's kind of a new object to play around with, and it's just, with the use, it's just self-created. You can do these types of things when you have the kind of the luxury of the subtractive process here. Meaning scratching things back into the composition. Okay. Alright, Triptych scene is done. Pretty quick project. I mean, this is, you know, fairly small. This is your typical quarter-page card, you know, in kind of relation to it. It's not even half of a quarter-size card. Okay, now, as you've seen in the beginning of this video, what I'll do is I'll format these. Typically give it a little space in between, but what would probably look good is to mat these up on something, on their own. I guess you can do it on one piece, or I can mat these separately, like that. Maybe that would be too much space in between. Maybe I'll just do it like that. I'll kind of leave about, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Maybe that's too much or something like that. I'll kind of leave a little space like this, but I'll set this on a mat, maybe double mat it and put it on a card. Okay. Hold on a second. Oh, good. My gold gel pen appears to be working. Let's see something here. Kind of in these gold, I don't know, brown, I guess, brown scenes. I tend to like using, or kind of orangish, reddish types of scenes. I like adding these little metallic pen embellishments. I don't know if you can see that, but kind of put these gold little sparkles in the water. Let me see if I can get that to focus in. Kind of put a bunch of them down there. See that right there? Anyways, fun little embellishments like that. Okay, these look great sprayed too. I'll probably spray it off at some point in time, but I'll have to get the card finished before then because it's raining outside and I can't, you don't want to spray things inside, so too many fumes. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. We have a triptych, kind of Lakeside Cove triptych. Oh, I see it as dusk or something like that, with the first star of the night kind of coming out. Some nice little textures in the sky. Like that, just like that star, we have this reversed out cloud. You don't have to buy a cloud stamp for that. You just kind of whisk it in with the subtractive process, which is a lot of fun. If you don't like it, ink up your, I don't know, wherever my thing went, ink it up, fill it in, and you can go over it again for another try. One thing though is when you start scratching back into it kind of deeply, if you kind of ink it back in, you might have to kind of press to get some of that ink in there. So, you know, so when you start doing these types of effects on here, typically I would recommend going with a little bit of a lighter touch, because if you do kind of cover it back up again, or you can take a sandpaper too and kind of rub it down, but you know, try not to gouge away unless you're going for that look, kind of a expressionist type of a landscape or something like that. But anyways, very workable if you kind of keep the marks somewhat shallow at first. Okay, thanks again for watching.